link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the play. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the play. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the play. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the play. Niggas don't know what to think. Thought I get money, you change. What you thought we was the same? Still stay away from them clones. Niggas better leave me alone. Talking about niggas is low. Run with niggas who don't know you. Whoa, I make that zagging when city to city. You niggas not hot in your state. If it was money to get a hit Henny, we get it and never complain. Same go for the gang. And we split it up all the same. I can't really eat, let's stay straight. Cause we go way back in the day. My day ones from back in the day. They still hang around me today. You wanna come round us, you can't. I'm rolling up loud, it's great. Lil' mama, she bad but complain. Cause I'm too in love with my dreams. And I gotta get on the plane and go get this money with OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang.
I get the bag with the gang. Taking that Zach to the bank. Henny be all in my drink. You niggas is stupid, you think that should change? You not even hot in your gang. Ain't nothing even hot about your gang. You niggas be lying about same. Be posting them pictures of guns for the fame. Niggas just look at me different now. Say that's your man, but he a clown. Don't fuck around with the fuck arounds. Little nigga, you should cut it out. Me and my niggas take different routes. Punch a bitch nigga all in his mouth. Hold up my nigga, we different now. I need a Robert, this is my style. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I get a bitch today, she probably a foreign model. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I'm with my gang today, tomorrow never promise.
OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang.
Attention, please. Please do not smoke in the terminal building. Smoking is only permitted in the specified smoking areas.
Zach. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Niggas don't know what to think. Thought I get money, you change. What you thought we was the same? Still stay away from them clones. Niggas better leave me alone. Talking about niggas is low. Run with niggas who don't know you. Whoa, I make that zagging when city to city. You niggas not hot in your state. If it was money to get a hit Henny, we get it and never complain. Same go for the gang. And we split it up all the same. I can't really eat, let's stay straight. Cause we go way back in the day. My day ones from back in the day. They still hang around me today. You wanna come round us, you can't. I'm rolling up loud, it's great. Lil' mama, she bad but complain. Cause I'm too in love with my dreams. And I gotta get on the plane and go get this money with OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang.
I get the bag with the gang. Taking that Zach to the bank. Henny be all in my drink. You niggas is stupid, you think that shit change? You not even hot in your gang. Ain't nothing even hot about your gang. You niggas be lying about same. Be posting them pictures of guns for the fame. Niggas just look at me different now. Say that's your man, but he a clown. Don't fuck around with the fuck arounds. Little nigga, you should cut it out. Me and my niggas take different routes. Punch a bitch nigga all in his mouth. Hold up my nigga, we different now. I need a raw, this is my style. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I get a bitch today, she probably a foreign model. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I'm with my gang today, tomorrow never promise.
OG, I draw up the plate, Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, Henny, he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang.
Your attention, please. Please do not smoke in the terminal building. Smoking is only permitted in the specified smoking areas.
Zach.
Thank you.
OG, I draw up the plate.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the look that drives the girls wild. I got the moves that really move them. I send chills up and down their spines. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I make them hot. I make them shiver. They just get weak. Whenever I'm around, they see me walk. They hear me talk. I make them feel like their God ain't real. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not a boy toy. Let's do this thing. Eat your that girls. Mike flip though. Hands off the merchandise. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Pocket Locker Podcast. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. Welcome to the show, folks. We've got another great one lined up for you. I'm joined and gathered by the Gather Gang, particularly, I believe, Lena and James Apperson are here with me on stage. We've got Crypto Mystic, Punk, Cameron Bennett, AR, Vegetative State, and UC Love with us. Please come join us and gather. We are getting ready to have our Trans is Beautiful movie night featuring 2 movies. I'm very excited about it. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and tell y'all real quick about these movies before we even get into our communion. So the first movie we're going to watch tonight is called Cowboys. It was made in 2020. Here's what Queer in the World has to say about it. A heartwarming tale of trans youth, Cowboys uses the beautiful backdrop of stunning Montana to explore masculinity, both toxic and healthy. Up-and-coming writer and director Anna Kerrigan is someone to be looking out for. With her first feature-length film, she managed to give viewers an insightful look into the good and the bad about being a man and a woman. Without going for stereotypical portrayals, this passionate anti-Western shows a man and his transgender boy escaping into the wilderness and getting to know themselves for who they truly are. The film's focus isn't on the transgender boy, though. It's on his father. Troy is an alcoholic with bipolar disorder and a rough past. He's a rough person, but he loves his son. Joe has recently decided that he wants to be a man, not a woman, and his father's completely fine with that, not his mother. All right. So, couple of details here. I'm going to skip over them so we don't give away too much. But they say we love this movie's portrayal of Joe. He's a young child, and as such, he's not that likable of a character. He can behave in ways that would annoy anyone, but his father is always there for him. It's such a realistic performance, the likes of which you don't see very often. They also want to applaud the filmmakers for giving Joe's role to a young transgender actor, Sasha Knight. All right, the other one is called Gun Hill Road. It's from 2011. Back in 2011, this captivating trans drama went by almost unseen, and that's a shame. Gun Hill Road is an emotional film that was very ahead of its time. It focuses both on a teenager who is discovering her trans self and her father, recently released from jail, who is trying to come to terms with his newfound daughter. We give this movie plenty props for actually casting a transgender actress, the talented Harmony Santana, to play the role of the trans character. Set in the Bronx in New York City, the film sees Enrique being back in his house after 3 years in prison. He quickly finds out that his family moved on while he was locked away. His wife had an affair. His son, Michael, has now embraced his identity as a trans woman by the name of Vanessa. Of course, Enrique has a hard time understanding what's happening. At the period of denial, he realizes that if he doesn't connect with the son, he'll be as alone as he was in prison. All right, so look, come link up with the gang. These sound like some fantastic films. I'm really, really excited about it, and we definitely want you all to come link up with us in Gather. I'm going to go. Oh, you know what? The link that we have that says call the show is the link you can click on to join us for movie night. And it's also in the description, but I'll go ahead and change that in a second. Let's go ahead and get into our communion so we can start the show. Let me go ahead and get that ready for us. Boom, there we go. All right, folks, y'all know the drill. If you don't, act like you do. So glad you're here. It's been a really, really, really great day. We've had a really meaningful and delightful experience with our shows today, and I'm looking forward to a fun night and Gather. So please raise your glasses and hold on to your asses. Through him, with him, in the unity of the flying man. All glory and honor is yours who flied for our sins forever and ever. You may drink. I heard AR's signature bottle pop. Everybody's got their signature sound. We know it's James by the typing. We know it's AR by the bottle pop. We know it's Lena by the vape puff. Everybody's got their signature sound. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get into our communion song. This one's called Where Everybody Knows Your Name. It comes to us from Foy Vance.
Dublin, and he's going to play us out. Oh, you're going to play what to finish us up?
Do you know what? I don't know the name of this song, actually, but I know the song, and so will you.
Oh, look forward to this. Foy Vance, take it away.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Well, all those nights when you got no lights and the check is in the mail, and your little angel on the coward by its tail. Your third fiancé didn't show.
Alright, I got UC Love first.
Well, sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and you're always glad they came.
I got Caterpillar.
You wanna
second.
be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
And Lena third, awesome.
Well, you get out of bed and the coffee's dead. The morning isn't looking bright. You shrink right off to Europe and he doesn't even write. Your girlfriend says she's not a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
Alright, I got UC
You
Love,
wanna be
Caterpillar,
where you
Lena,
can
Crystal.
Troubles are all the same. You wanna go where
Cameron
everybody
Bennett is in the
knows
house.
your name.
My man AR is in the chat.
You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your
Appreciate
name.
Foy Vance. Most common word coming in by text, Foy, is goosebumps. Believe it or not, we've had that repeatedly across a whole series.
All right, James. Is James here? James, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. So glad you're here with us, James. Man, you had a heavy stream on us yesterday, man. You tried to sneak in. You tried to sneak in one of the "You Can't Fire Me, I Quit" streams.
It was sort of.
You ain't tell nobody. You ain't give nobody no type of warning or nothing. But look, James, man, I think it was Melody maybe in the chat who said it best. You know, wherever you take it, we gonna be right there with you, man. We're with it. You know, and I, for one, look, man, I think sometimes we just need to do some things for community. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Code Names. We have a game in Gather called Code Names. I absolutely love that game. It's just a really fun game to play with friends. Now, when you're playing it, you might have this feeling like, man, I wish I could get these people to play Madden with me, or, why don't these people play Call of Duty? Whatever it is, because of course you have your thing that you'd rather do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth doing because it's fun, and most importantly, your friends are doing it, and you get to spend time with them outside of whatever the normal thing is. And in that case, like the best thing about being so heavily involved in with a church was you just loved spending time with these people at a church. Oh, church people doing something not church together? Sure, I'm there. Count me in, right? And we need to do a little bit more of that, right? Just be down with something because it's a good streamer. You like the community. Your friends are going to be there. We're already doing that. We don't want to have a fucking conversation about the subjective or objective nature of morality. We don't want to have the 25,000th conversation about, where you're at on the historicity of Jesus. We really don't. What these are their conversations that we count on to reliably attract our community, and then we go there to be with the community. So if we're already going to just fill some time chilling with the community, why not just chill because everybody's hanging out at James Apperson's channel, and as long as you're not doing something that offends our sensibilities, we could just support you. And a lot of streamers figure that out, and I think they're better off for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Now, like I said, there's going to be that fall off. There's going to be the people who just really can't stand to do something else. But, I found myself this way in Twitch. Like, I got into a lot of communities because I found a streamer I liked. I never thought, oh, I'm going to just want to spend my work day watching people play flight simulators. But, I found myself finding some cool streamers who played flight simulators or truck simulators, and found myself a whole crazy, cool sub-community because I just enjoyed those personalities. I found their streams relaxing and a size I could engage with, and they made me feel welcome when I came through, so I kept coming through,
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I was like watching people whose job it is to like design planes and stuff. But I found all of that really cool. I just needed somewhere to be during the day. I found it more interactive than watching ESPN all day. Quite frankly, I realized I don't need to watch ESPN all day. If I really want to catch up with sports, I could watch the couple of shows I actually like and spend the rest of my work day, chilling on Twitch while I'm programming or whatever. And
Right.
I hope people find, the ability to support you in that way, regardless of where you go.
Yeah, I'm sure some of our people really will.
All right, now James, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a super heavy-handed butt coming here.
Yeah.
I do disagree with you about what you're offering our community.
Mm-hmm.
I think you actually are offering something really valuable to our community. I think, just in the sense of, gaslighting and goblin mode were like the words of the year and 2022. And you had us talking about gaslighting and narcissistic personalities. And if they're not the narcissists themselves, they're getting it from their playbook. You were talking about all that shit before it was cool, James.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't think there's enough of that in this community, right? Our community is trying to do something different, and part of it is our voice is trying to say, no. We're tired of, Lena was talking about it, like, I don't know if this is the fourth or fifth wave atheism or whatever it is, but it's like, no, we're tired of the academic, pseudo-academic back and forth. We're tired of the nonsense political debates. It's time to talk about how you guys are abusive and you're fascist, and, let's really hit them where it hurts, because we're sick of the typical counter apologetics. We've seen and heard it all. It isn't going anywhere. And so I think your assessment and analysis of the community is 100% spot on. But I think most of us, and I'm speaking for myself, but I think others would probably say as well, like, we totally agree with you, James, but that's why we fucks with you. And please, like, there's a reason we're here, and it's not just because, we realize there's a million other channels popping up doing the same old thing, and you're not, and that's why we're down with you, because you're talking about all this other shit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, what do I know, right? Like, I can't tell somebody else what they really think or how they really feel or why they really do a thing. That's up to them to tell me, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, like, I try to look for objective ways to measure my contributions and
Sure.
where it sits with people. And so I don't trust compliments any more than I trust insults.
I understand. I totally understand. Totally understand.
I don't trust either thing. So I look for metrics. And so I look for the way that people respond to me in real time, and then I compare that to how they respond to other people. And I look at the things that people just talk about in stream, right? There's a difference. And I notice trends when I'm talking on a stream versus when somebody else is talking on a stream, and chat trends and flow trends and things like that. And then it causes me to say, okay, like, what could I have done differently then to kind of match the flow, the energy, the vibe, the direction, right? So that I'm on the same page as everybody else. And what I've realized is that there are certain things about what I bring to the community that are well appreciated and consistently so. But there are other things where people just kind of sit through it, right? And that's okay. It's a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm adjusting my channel to match that idea.
Yeah.
So
no, and like I said, I support whatever you do, right? Even if it was just sprinkling it in a little, but I just wanted to be honest with you about, I think you do bring a lot of value. A couple other things. The metrics are fucked for all of us, because to be honest, we are in an incredibly low growth portion of the YouTube algorithm. Again, I can't say it enough. If I'm sitting around at the YouTube table, I literally don't know that our community exists. And if you told me about it, I'd be like, I really wish you didn't tell me that, because I'd rather just delete those channels and not have to think about the people whose lives it would affect. Because seriously, think about it. Your YouTube, like, you just generate billions of views all the goddamn time, and there's so much monetization and money coming to your platform. You're kind of already uncomfortable. Most of these social media companies are, about the role their platforms play in political and sensitive conversations already, right? They're already like, we wish you'd just make cats playing piano videos or makeup tutorials or talk about sports or anything other than this shit, right? And then they've already got the people who are just going to go there, like, let's say the apologists or the religion channels or the right-wingers or whatever, right? But at least those fools are making a buck. And they're generating, quite sizable followings and audience and interaction, and their channels are monetizable and blah, 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 blah. We're like the little growths hanging off of them that nobody, like, they're a nuisance, and we're just the people who were, like, complaining about what a nuisance these minor inconveniences are to everyone. So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
I don't take it personal. When
100%.
I've gone also to the channels of some of the really great scholars that Derek has had on his channel. And I've noticed that they've been struggling to break 1,000 themselves after years.
Right.
And they have these really wonderful books, and they've got like 12 reviews.
100%.
And the books have been out for years. And it's like, so I get it. Like it's a niche, and there was an era, there was a generation where if you get in then, you're getting in on the ground floor.
Right.
But now there's so much competition.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all that. And Lena, please pipe in whenever you'd like. But oh wait, is Lena on? Yeah, Lena's on the stage with us. I was gonna say because I got a spotlight talk about Lena. All right, so
I'll just share your sentiment in saying that, James, you offer so much to this community, and so much of what you've talked about is just so important, and your voice needs to be heard. So thank you for what you do.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I do. And the thing for me is, yes, the things that we talk about, somebody needs to say it, right? But at the same time, I've been looking around and noticing that, man, I can't think of a single thing that I've said in the past year that hasn't been said elsewhere and just as well and reached more people. Everything I say is being said by somebody else.
You know what may happen, though, with that, James? We've all got different bags as content creators. So I don't hear people saying the things you say, because that's why. So I don't say it just to compliment you, but people who listen to me all the time hear me like, well, James has been saying, y'all hear James say it all the time. And I'm just trying not to be a fraud. You know, as a scientist, we got to cite motherfuckers, else we feel like we're being intellectually dishonest, right? I don't want people to think these are my ideas. And then even things that, you know, we haven't developed yet, but, you know, you've done some podcasts or some shows like Today on YouTube, stuff like that, where I think, man, if James really wanted to, you know, this thing could really have some legs to it. But yeah, what I was saying about where we're at is just the algorithm doesn't push us. It doesn't promote us. We're in a weird space. But I learned to take value from different metrics. And so maybe check some of these out. There's a service called vidIQ that can help you look into some of this. YouTube offers some, but not all of it. But there's things like your watch time. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you start to think about the way your views relate to your watch time, that's crazy. Like, I think in the last year, people have watched me something like 500,000 minutes or some shit like that.
Wow.
Like, it just gets to be crazy. But that's the type of thing that gets lost because you do longer streams, sometimes for smaller audiences, and when people come, they stay. Right? So what a lot of times I get is if I'm live for 8 hours, I'm going to get 3 times as many viewers, 3 times as many views as I will if I'm live for an hour. And it's not because I've reached that many more people. It's just being live that much longer means people have come and gone multiple times. And each time they're here for 30 seconds, I get a view. And then they go watch something else, and then they come back. I get another view. Then they go watch something else, and then they come back and get a view. If I'm only live for an hour, my stream's probably going to get less than 100 views. Because that shows you who was the real viewership that showed up and sat there and watched the goddamn thing for a reasonable amount of time, right? So what that type of number will help you realize is that even though your views don't be crazy or your subs don't be crazy, people be watching your shit. Like, they spend a lot of time watching you, right? And it'll help you kind of see that because we tend to focus so heavy on views and so heavy on subscribers. That's only really telling part of the picture.
Right. So I pay more attention to engagement, right? Like, so if I watch somebody talking a topic and the chat is really engaged with the topic, it's provocative, it's inspiring, it's like, hey, I want in on this, and they start talking, then you know that the host or the guests are doing their job. You know they're reaching people in the chat.
Right.
But if they're not even talking about what you're talking about, you know you're not reaching them. Now, today that happened at the Afro Atheist, but it wasn't our fault. There was somebody, Mojo, that came through and wanted to start a debate about whether or not Jesus really existed, which was completely not the topic we were on.
Sure. And
people fell for it. And it happens at Derek's channel too, and we try to shut it down when it happens.
Right.
Because you get these people that come in with religious agendas, and they want to keep you off topic. They don't want you to learn and grow and support the channel. And so I noticed it, and I kept shutting it down. And eventually I'm like, we got to stop and deal with this. Right. And this is why this was the reason that they were not engaged with the topic. It had nothing to do with whether or not I was delivering the goods or not. But But a lot of times that doesn't happen, and those are the channels where those are useful metrics. And so I watch other people's channels and the chat engagement and responses and stuff, and I notice trends, right? And I can tell. It's a lot like when you go to a real church and you sit and you watch the people instead of the guy giving the lecture. And if you just spend a minute, you can tell who's there for what reason, who's paying attention, who's into this, who thinks it matters to their journey and who doesn't.
Right.
Who was there for something else, and whatever it is that they were there for, they're not getting it. You can tell.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
and it's that kind of a thing. So I start watching for those metrics instead. I recognize that I'm appreciated and valued in this community. I do. Which is why I'm not canceling my channel.
I got you.
So, but what I've noticed is people are there for the groove. They're there for the chill voice, and because I'm the only bar that's open, but also because they like the chill groove, right? I mean, that's what they're there for. Now, if somebody brings a specific issue to me and they want my response, fine. I figure if they're going to take the time to ask me, they probably do value what I have to say about it one way or the other. But for the most part, people are there because it's a chill bar to hang out at. And I respect that. Like, I appreciate that. I don't feel like that doesn't matter. I think it does matter.
Right.
And so what I've been thinking, that's one of the reasons I want to change my channel to where it's just going to be, I'm going to read from books. And I don't care what books. I'll probably end up picking them because every time I ever ask people for suggestions, nobody offers me any topics, whatever. Nobody says anything. So I'm going to pick the books.
Sure.
People can shuffle in. The bar is open. James is going to be reading from whatever book. And if you want to pay attention to it, cool. If you want to work out to it, if you want to go to bed to it, you want to make love to it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if it's not your groove, turn it down or turn it off or leave the channel or ignore me, right? It doesn't matter. So the bar will still be open. I'm just not going to be doing counter apologetics anymore on the channel. Now, I might still talk about issues, but I'm going to talk about them differently.
Sure.
I'm going to try to avoid words like God, Jesus, religion, fundies. So I'm going to talk more about the issues and how they affect us, like social equality and why it matters, and the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, and how to have difficult conversations and things like that. So I'll still be relevant, but it won't. But I'm not going to be pointing my finger anymore, saying, "Look what those damn Christians are doing to our politics, and look what they're doing to our families." Because while somebody needs to do that, you've got it covered. Uncle Bobby's got it covered. 100 other channels got it covered, and if Bob Ross, you know who Bob Ross is, the Happy Little Clouds guy.
Yep.
If you tuned into that, and there he is talking about his happy little clouds. And then while he's talking about his happy little clouds, he starts talking about all the horrible things that he witnessed when he was in Nam or whatever, right? And his same chill voice. And this happy little cloud reminds me of the time that the enemy came out from behind that happy
James, this is a gag. Somebody needs to do this because it's a start. I get your point. I see your point, but fucking epic. That would just be epic. But yeah, I see your point. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
really.
I remember that time Johnny came out from behind that happy little tree and blew my friend's happy little head away.
It's a great visual, James. I'm
right.
I get the picture you're painting, brother.
Right. So this has occurred to me, and I'm like, the vibe doesn't match the topic, right? And I appreciate the humor in it too. I do. It's not lost on me at all, right?
Yeah.
But I think someone does need to do that as a comedy skit. I think it needs to happen.
Yeah, that's funny.
But if I let myself give it the energy it deserves, like Uncle Bobby does, like you do, my anxiety raises, my PTSD triggers, my blood chemistry changes, and I end up awake till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with God and everything to do with my exes or my mom or some stupid shit. So if it's not healthy for me, then I shouldn't do it regardless.
Right.
And if it's not the reason people are at my bar when it's open, then maybe I could find a reason, a theme, right? That doesn't raise my anxiety and my blood pressure and keep me up at night.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of things. So I do feel appreciated and seen in the community and valued, but I don't, but not for the counter apologetics.
Sure. I think people will still be there, and I also want you to realize I think people really like you. So, like for instance, I think Derek's a big fan. I think he's probably there more than you realize. I've talked to him. I talked to him offline, and he. I know he's in certain channels more than he's in the chats, right? Because he feels bad if he starts engaging with the chat and then he's not there because he gets, pretty decent amount of attention in our community, right? So he kind of feels, so it's just a thing where he lurks a lot, right? Because he feels bad if he has to like pop in and out, and he pops in, people start talking to him, and then he's not there to acknowledge their comments or anything like that. So
right, that makes sense. I don't know, like. I messaged him and told him I apologized for the fact that I said all those videos where he was in to private. And I wanted to let him know that it wasn't because I didn't like his contributions or value them. It's because there were technical difficulties and minutes at a time where nobody could hear me and I didn't know they couldn't hear me, or I had disruptive guests come in and throw off the channel, things like that. And I'm like, so I want to go back, clean them up, and plus they're too long, 7 hours. Come on.
Sure.
Yeah, so I need to go back and find the best of those and then re-upload them with appropriate titles and stuff. So it'll resurface eventually. And I wanted to let him know that I did appreciate those times he stopped in, and he let me know that he hadn't thought twice about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't sound like him to even be concerned about that.
But he hadn't been through my channel that I know of in a couple of months. And I thought, well, just in case that bothers him or he feels unappreciated, I better let him know that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but that was
I know he really enjoyed it, and he really enjoys your stuff. And I've heard him mention it a couple times, and it's tough, like, because I know you said like you don't always get the growth, and I've had that experience, where. I don't think in our community realize how much it's difficult, even like. So you have something like where Uncle Bobby was on Paula Gia's and he damn near doubled his subs. That's, Paula G is at a different kind of level, and that's a different level of engagement, right? So I think, for instance, even my own thing with Derek, we'll see it'll be a lot more fruitful with what we have planned down the road, because the classes will give us excuses to do a lot of repeated exposure and then tie it into other channels. But without that, it's not like, the Thinking Atheist happens to mention Pocket Locker 86 in a stream tomorrow, and 5,000 new subs are going to come. It just isn't that way anymore.
So, but like to put that into perspective, and I get what you're saying, and I agree, but to put it into perspective a little bit, a month or 2 months ago, Derek had a really, really active stream, like one of his more popular ones. It went on for hours. The guests are great. I was active there with moderating and stuff, and at the end of the stream, before everybody had a chance to leave, like before we closed it out, he let everybody know that I had a great channel and go subscribe. Right now, and then he went ahead and me drop my own link and stuff. Now, normally, people will be supportive and take his recommendations, and I didn't get a single sub from that. And then so today I was over it, and I spent a couple hours over there with Esther over at the Afro Atheist, and after we had our discussion, she had me drop a link and said, please go subscribe to James, and again, not a single sub. And the same thing happens like over at Answers in Atheism, your channel. Like you could say it right now, and it wouldn't matter how many people are here.
Yeah, link in the description. I got it in every video. It's always there.
Matter.
It's always there.
It doesn't matter. My channel's not growing anymore, and it doesn't matter because people go there and they sample it, and they're like, "Nah, I'm not feeling this," and so they just jet. And so that lets me know, again, as an objective metric, that lets me know that whatever it is that hooks people. I don't got the right worm on the line, or I don't got a sharp enough hook. Something's wrong.
Yeah, it's different. There's a lot of different things, James, because I agree with you. And part of it is I'm losing interest in the bigger community, but I'm gaining more interest in what we have going on. But that might be the inverse of the average viewer, right? To where they're trying to figure out where do you fit in relation to like the bigger picture with the major counter apologetics or the bigger name, YouTube channels, and then they come over to us and it's just a bunch of different stuff and people they've never heard of, and but it's interesting because I couldn't care less about what rationality rules says or some shit like that,
Right. Yeah,
because
same
I'm
here.
making a connection with
Right.
our
I don't
groove,
even
who I feel is
right.
really
I
in
don't
my
even care
life.
about view count or even subscriber count necessarily.
Right,
The whole
right.
reason I even pay attention to any of that is because I'm looking for objective metrics to gauge where I am
Yeah, where you're at. Sure.
in the field and what I'm delivering. And what I've determined after so many different discussions and noticing things is that the things that I'm appreciated for are my vibe, my voice, and the fact that I'm pro community, and then my bar is often open when other ones aren't. So that's it, pretty much. So I could just read from Dr. Seuss, and I honestly think I'd get more views and more return visits and more subscribers than talking about counter apologetics. And that might just be what I end up doing.
Well, yeah, let's try it
and it's-
out, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it out and see how that goes. And I'm not looking to like have a pity party. I just don't think I'm that good at counter apologetics. And it's like all dudes think they're great at sex, right? Ask them.
Sure.
If you don't believe me, ask them.
Right.
They're all like God's gift to women or men if they're gay or whatever. They're all great at sex. It's the same kind of thing with the counter apologetics. Ask any atheist that has his own channel how good he is at exposing Christianity and making great points, and they're all under celebrated geniuses, right? We all are, and it's just that kind of a thing. So I've just realized lately that I'm just not that great at it, and it's fine, right? Because talking about it that much raises my anxiety anyways, and I shouldn't be doing it anyways. So I'm like, I'm not going to take that personal. If it's not marketable, if I don't got the secret sauce, then I'm just going to stick with what I'm good at. So I'm going to read Dr. Seuss or Homer's Odyssey or a cookbook or whatever the hell, random stuff for the day, and put my best voice forward and be chill and have the bar open when other people's aren't. Time it to where most people are getting ready to go to bed soon, and then we'll just see what happens with it, right?
Absolutely. So a couple of things I want to mention real quick, because we had kind of a hang up in Gather the other day. And I briefly wanted to mention a couple things about Gather, because ideally for me, although people like you and Lena and Nitty are here on the stage with me, I do think of that as kind of being on the stream, right? But I really like the idea of Gather giving people sort of a front row seat to a stream and like an enhanced viewing experience. Like, one of the things that I don't think people, that I didn't realize, it takes time. It takes time and getting in with the community and seeing what's up, and then things start to click. But one thing that's really, a lot of us have realized sort of throughout the week, throughout the day, is, like you said, a lot of times you're the only bar that's open. Well, a lot of times there's no bar that's open, right? And so what most of us realize is Gather's the bar that's literally always open. And what we're trying to do is really enhance everybody's appreciation of that, such that more and more people are like, I'm going to check into YouTube rather than just going to check in to Gather, right? Or check into YouTube, nothing's on, check in to Gather. We're probably in Gather. And then the thing that's become really apparent for most of us now is that we do both, right? So, like, for instance, when I get up for the day, usually whatever we've left on overnight is playing, if that's movies or a particular TV station or whatever. And then once I get up, we're typically trying to keep track of what's live, who's live, what are they doing, or whatever. So Carrie Ann might have in the chat, James is going live, or Math Pig is live, or whatever's going on, right? And then if no one's live, well, then we kind of are in free stream mode, right? Where we're watching videos that may have dropped that we're interested in. We're putting up news clips we might be interested in. Maybe if people are working or taking meetings, we might just put on the Young Turks for a little while, and then people are reacting to stories about what's going on in the news. And so it's immediately far better because even if you're in a content desert, you're not in the content desert alone.
Right.
Yeah. And then we're also able to make real-time decisions like, oh, Lupin's live. Oh, let's check in on that. Oh, he's just spewing a bunch of hateful nonsense about us. I'm not really in the mood for this. Let's watch something else, you know? So all that's kind of going on. Now, the other thing that means is that when we're streaming, that can kind of go on too. So like right now we're using Gather pretty well, which is, you know, something we've tried to do lately, and definitely want to thank the regular Gather gang and people like AR and Lena for leading the way. But really, we're on a stage. So the people that are here on the stage with us should be people who want to broadcast to the room. So therefore, they want to be part of the stream, right? Otherwise, you should be somewhere else. And that's actually not a demotion. That's a really good thing. Because what it means is if you look at the way it is right now, if Vegetative State walks over to where UC Love is, then UC Love and Vegetative State can actually chit-chat and have their own video talk about the stream if they want, right? And we have our own room chat in here, so we can have our own text chat during a stream, and you don't have to worry about the trolls taking it over and all that type of stuff, right? And if you look at where Cameron and YouTube Punk are, right, they can have their own private conversation. They're in a private area. So that's a feature of Gather, not a bug, right? And what it means is that like our streams can actually be way more interactive now than just relying on a comment section or just texting each other back and forth during a live chat. We can actually watch streams together, right? Like you would like in a watch party or something like that. And we do that all the time. Like a lot of times when you're live, we'll all be watching you and Gather, and then we just have second tabs or second devices where we're active in your chat. So I'll just pull up on another screen your stream and I'll, text in the chat, but we'll all be watching you on the broadcast and Gather. And it's really helpful because we'll literally just be sitting there talking to each other about what you're saying or, having our own conversations. So it really adds a ton of value. And I realized that what happened the other day was actually an opportunity for me to speak to that, because what you may not have realized was I didn't have you going through the stream, which is another thing people should realize. It's a timing thing. I can't have people sing along with me on stream. It's like a fake out. Like, ironically, I can lead people in song, but there's just a hair second of delay that we can't sing in time together. You never notice during conversation, but if you actually try, it's actually happened. Like we've played OG Roddy music when he was here and he was singing along and it was all out of time, and Uncle Bobby's tried to do it, and I always have to mute Gather when people are singing. But that didn't take away the value, right? Because people, I don't know if you noticed this even in your stream chat, people were saying this when you were doing your stream, but Lena and Carrie Ann and a whole bunch of people heard you singing in Gather, and they started singing along with you in Gather. You just couldn't hear them because you were on stage with me, probably.
Yeah,
they were muted or something or whatever. But like, that's actually awesome. Like in an ideal world, like you'd be live on YouTube. Imagine if somebody like Derek did this, because Derek's stream is big enough for it'd make a huge difference, right? So, it's like we'd have our own little panels and our own little discussions and our own little rooms where we could, really talk to each other while we watch Derek do his streams or while we watch his videos, as opposed to just going back and forth in the chat. And it really does enhance the bar feel, right? So, what you did was actually something I wish people did more, which is, get on the mic and participate in the stream, right? It's just we want them to be aware. What you really want to do is, either be out here in the crowd or be in one of the private areas, unless you're trying to appear on the stream, right? So that's it. But so it was just an opportunity to speak a little bit to that. And then also to understand that's why the games are here. Because that's another thing that's really interesting is like you talk about how we go to these streams and it's just because somebody's bar is open. But we end up spending all these like hours on these streams. And again, we're just texting our friends back and forth in the chat. We could just be chilling and playing dominoes instead, or like having fun. We don't have to limit ourselves just to the endless drone of counter apologetics.
Right.
That can effectively become background noise.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I just think that if it's just me, I might as well just be reading Dr. Seuss or something.
No, I agree. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that for other people. It was just kind of an opportunity to talk about it because it came up. And I just wanted to mention that because I want people to do that more intentionally, right? And that's why, if you've noticed, I've been more intentionally about having people on the stage when you want to be on a panel, being on a spotlight tile, and then having everybody else be in the audience. That way, people are getting in the habits where they can do that, and they can talk amongst themselves and have their own private chats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really fun.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So,
go ahead.
The only other thing that's been bothering me is that, I don't get enough sleep at night.
Yes.
And I got PTSD besides. And I've listened to some of my stuff, like private messages from a couple of years ago where I would have conversations with random people. And I think I'm getting brain damage. I think that my ability to connect with other people socially is worse. Like my ability to say things in a marketable way. And I'm not using marketable as in terms of I could make money from it. I just mean marketable in terms of this is the whole reason people can. Yeah. So there's a reason certain conversational styles can be turned into profit and some can't, right? Mine can't, and it could be before. And I've realized that my story, my life, is very. Most people here haven't read the book, but there's a book called Flowers for Algernon, and this is very much my story. Except,
is there a movie about that?
There was probably a movie. I didn't see the movie. If there was, I should look it up because that's easier for most people. But Flowers for Algernon. So, spoiler alert, I'll just give you the basics. This guy is dumb. He just can't hold his own in any conversation or context in society. And there's this brilliant scientist that figures out how to make him smart. It's an experiment and it works better than he expected. And so now that this guy functions so much better cognitively, it opens up a whole new world to him, and he can have discussions he couldn't have before. And then he finds out he could have relationships he couldn't have before. And his life really blooms. And it's just like, it's bittersweet how tragic it is that he didn't know how much he was missing, but now he can, right? But then the effects turn out to be temporary, and the scientist realizes he can't maintain it, and he's already starting to kind of revert back to his other state where he can't maintain those relationships that he's built. He can't have this other life, and now moving forward he's gonna know what he's missing, and he didn't before. And so in a couple of different ways this is very much my journey. So noticing that I'm getting dumber is not exactly a careful enough word, but noticing that I'm becoming less and less able, less and less marketable in the social marketplace, and that it's because of the untreated severe PTSD, the social isolation, and the chronic sleep deprivation. And if there's something else going on, I just don't know. There could be something else. And so I notice the difference, and I notice in the way people respond to me, and I notice just on so many levels, and it scares me because I don't know if I'm heading toward dementia, but even if I'm not, let's just assume I'm not, right? But next year, I'm going to be less. And the year after that, I'm going to be less. And it's going to happen at the degradation is going to happen at a sharper curve than it happens to most people. It already is. And if you would have known me when I was in high school, like you would be amazed, like at how smart I was, how mentally agile I was. And then if you would have known me even just 10 years ago, you'd be able to tell the difference. So people can say, "Oh, James, you seem pretty smart," but the
Right.
reason I seem smart is because
They don't
I
have a
have
comparison.
so I have a large vocabulary left over from when I used to be actually smart, right? And so I know how to use those words. I know the words, I know how to use them in a sentence. And that makes me sound smarter than I am, because normally that only happens when somebody is smart. And they're right. I was smart. So I'm losing the IQ points, but I've still got the vocabulary. So I can fake my way through it. The downside is that because I've lost so many IQ points, I'm worse at figuring out how to use it effectively. And so I say something with 1,000 words that should have taken me 10 words. And I overcomplicate points and repeat myself when there's no need to, and I miss my social cues like an autistic person, even though I'm not autistic. And so all these subtle things. And so if you go to a stream with somebody who's not as focused, they don't have their vocabulary is not as developed, they kind of have a hard time concentrating, and they're even more disorganized, they still get more people in there and they still get more subs. And the reason is because they're more relatable, because they're picking up on their social cues, and they're vulnerable in just the right kind of way, and they're relatable in just the right kind of way, and there's a synchronicity there, an almost social choreography, right? Even though it's not a serious one. And I don't know if I'm explaining this the right way or not. So I'm diminishing every year and fast, and so the doctor is like, "Yeah, we got to get you some brain scans to find out what's going on." But no matter what it is, it's probably not something they can fix. And it scares me, right, to lose myself so fast, and to know that no matter what I lose, I'm probably not going to get it back. And if I want to establish a durable place in any social ecosystem, then I've got to make sure that whatever that place is rests on talents that don't require a certain presence of mind. If I can make my voice isn't dependent on my brain function that much. Neither is my ability to read, right? So I can read stories.
Wow.
Right. And then I can establish myself in that way. And then once I'm in the community and that's who I am for the community, nobody will notice the degradation and it won't affect me socially. And that's probably the best that I can do. And so when I look at these other people that are more marketable, that they're better at counter apologetics than I am, I know that wouldn't have been true 5 years ago, but it's true now, and it's so frustrating.
Wow.
To feel myself slipping away, and I can't do anything about it.
Damn, James. I'm sorry, brother. That is that's incredibly tough to deal with. You know, I realized this when I listened to Mike streams. Like, Mike is really dealing with his mortality in a way.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're lucky to have people in our community that are vulnerable enough to, you know, let us in a little bit. But yeah, James, I'm sorry, man. That's a serious feeling. Obviously, I think that's part of the reason you feel like you've got to, you know, I struggle with the COVID isolation too, right? And I always wonder how much that exacerbates, you know, especially some of those things that rely on feedback and social cues and just normal socialization.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fucking scary.
Yeah. I mean, there's more to it, but I already can't regulate my emotions well enough to finish this discussion. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now.
I understand, brother. Also with the bipolar, I've struggled with that, right? And that's a big part of bipolar to me. I don't know. They when you talk about bipolar, you talk about a mood disorder. But to me, living with bipolar is about two things. You have to sleep, you got to eat. So the hope would be, right, that a lot of this is actually your rest, right? And this hope is correlated with the decline in functioning based on not sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, but aging is something we've all got to deal with the realities of that as well. But I think the not sleeping the way you describe has dramatic effects on you.
Yeah, it does.
But that's another black box right now.
Right.
So yeah, we're here for you, man, and we definitely appreciate you. And if you want to talk more about it, we should we're definitely here to listen to you if you want to talk about what you're going through.
Appreciate it. I do.
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot right now. But yeah, I think that's probably a good time. We'll transition to the clip we want to show today. It's not a very long one. And then we'll go ahead and get ready for our movie night. Appreciate you, James. All right, let me... here we go.
Our identity, our culture, our biology.
All right, gang. This one is about the science, in this case, the neuroscience of transgender, and I think it's been really an incredible day. I'm really grateful to Lena and Stephanie Helms and James and my one black friend and Uncle Bobby for helping me put all this together today. And I thought if we're going to do a little stream to lead us into our movie night, and I was going to do something on my channel, I thought it'd be appropriate that I do something that touches on the scientific aspect of it, right? I'm a scientist, and I guess we'll let the science, which is something we've heard advocated for throughout the day, sort of put a period on the end of the sentence for us, and then we'll have our movie night.
Gender is deeply rooted in our identity, our culture, our biology, and how we operate within our cultures on a daily basis. While some people view these issues as simply one way or another, contrary to what was once believed, the traditional classification of male or female is anything but straightforward. So today, let's explore what we in the brain-based sciences understand about gender and sexuality. But before I do, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about that thing in your head. No, not that hairy situation you got yourself into last night. That's none of my business, but the brain. So hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought something was so well known that you were shocked to find out that you may have been in the minority when it comes to that knowledge you assumed was so widespread? Well, that's how I feel about the neuroscience surrounding gender and biological sex. Also, if you've ever had that experience where you were surprised to find out that something you knew wasn't common knowledge, I'm actually curious about it, so leave me a comment below. Turning our attention to the topic at hand, whenever anyone says that science does not support gender or biological sex outside of being strictly male or strictly female, I'm just like, really? Really? Well, I'm going to begin by clearing up some common misconceptions. First and foremost, one's biological sex refers to one's reproductive organ type and chromosomal makeup, such as XX for female and XY for male, but this is not always so binary, as there are instances of people having only one X chromosome or two X's and one Y chromosome. In addition to this, are the primary hormones that produce changes that occur during puberty. These hormones are either androgens, which help promote sexual characteristics in males, or estrogens, which help promote sexual characteristics in females. What's important to note about this is that biological sex is simply that, the physical characteristics one is born with. A common misconception people often hold is the belief that gender is equal to biological sex. This is simply not the case. Gender is the cultural roles one adopts that is often representative of their biological sex. Gender is also a psychological phenomenon that changes within and between cultures. For example, the Chambuli people, that's a hard word. For example, the Chambuli people of New Guinea showed a complete reversal of stereotypical gender roles compared to that of the United States. Anthropologists, which are awesome researchers who study various cultures, have documented that in the Chambuli culture, women control the finances, manufacturing, and even were responsible for courting their male counterparts. The men were expected to display what would be considered feminine characteristics by North American standards. They were viewed as dependent and the primary ones to decorate and ornament their bodies with jewelry and flowers. Gender roles in modern North American society are best understood in how society expects men and women to behave in places such as the workplace, or even how society expects one to excel on specific tasks, such as the expectation of superior verbal ability in women and mathematical ability in men. Even though this achievement gap between men and women regarding spatial and verbal ability has increasingly narrowed over time. Biologists and anthropologists agree that biological sex and gender share a relationship, but this relationship ends when one's internal biology counters that cultural expectation. For example, some individuals may experience what's known as gender dysphoria. This is where one's gender is unrelated to one's biological sex. So there's a mismatch between one's sex and one's gender. In simple terms, most cases of gender dysphoria work like this. One may be born with one biological sex, but their brain is more like the opposite sex. Sadly, these differences in gender have been misunderstood both inside and outside of the scientific community. So I understand the concern, especially considering how homosexuality was formerly considered a mental disorder. However,
Yeah, I was going to say, this is important to acknowledge. Not only has science been a little in the past, but science has often been used, or it's still being used, to actively discriminate against people. And in some cases, you know, it is the practices of fields like biology, anthropology, and medicine that, you know, are responsible for some of the greatest atrocities against marginalized people. And it plays a role in the mistrust of science, and it's important for us to acknowledge it and not deny it. But at the same time, it's not an excuse for the continued misuse of science. And of course, I think it demonstrates, you know, one of the primary values of science, which is ultimately it's science that corrects for bad science. So.
Keep in mind that the classification of gender dysphoria is only designed to capture a real experience of those who feel as if they are not the appropriate gender, especially when the mismatch between sex and gender results in severe distress. In cases where a mismatch between sex and gender is present, people often try to manipulate their appearance so that they more accurately reflect their gender identity. These people are considered to be transgender. Generally speaking, most transgender people are either female to male or male to female, but there are transgender people who prefer androgyny. That is, they prefer to equally display both masculine and feminine characteristics, often dictated by their cultures. Transsexual people are those who have undergone hormonal treatments and even reassignment surgery so that their secondary sexual characteristics more closely align with their gender identity. Unfortunately, many in our current society have considered transgender people as either mentally disordered or making the choice to be trans. The science does not support these assumptions. In neural imaging studies, researchers found that the brains of males and females differ, and that before hormone replacement therapy is involved, females who identify as males have brains with white matter tracts that are more closely representative of male brains. Additional studies have examined male to female transgender people and found that their white matter tracts are different from both males and females, and these differences are most apparent in areas of the brain responsible for movement and emotional processing. This is a really interesting finding and makes a lot of sense when we consider male and female development of the brain while in the womb. The presence of the hormone testosterone masculinizes the brain, while the absence of this hormone produces a feminine brain. And this process occurs during a different phase of development from the production of male or female sex organs. So basically, during fetal development, masculinization or feminization of the brain occurs independently from the development of sex organs. Thus, the brain's under or overexposure of testosterone can result in people feeling a mismatch between sex and gender. You know, I spent hours on Twitter sometime last year detailing what I told you just now to someone who denied that gender was separate from biological sex and then further claimed that anyone who was gender nonconformist was essentially faking it. I ended up responding to their original post with a long AF thread, and they ended up blocking me. I tried. So hopefully I've been able to clear up some common misconceptions that gender identity and even biological sex is binary or a straightforward affair. There are many factors that contribute to who we are and how we define ourselves, and science makes a compelling case for a flexible gender spectrum. Now, culture needs to be flexible enough to reflect the evidence presented by science. If you liked what you watched, subscribe to my channel.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. That's a thing for me that gets overlooked in this conversation, especially when dealing with people like, Fuckface Doug and some others. Even in our conversations with a lot of theists, where they have a very selective hearing when it comes to science. They love to tell us how much they love science, what big fans of science they are. And then at the end of the day, when we're like, all right, cool, well, this is what the science says, time to get on board, all of a sudden it's the woke mob, leftist, socialist agenda that is trying to trans the kids because that's the thing the kids are going to do to get attention. Whoa, I thought you guys liked the science. What happened to your passionate love and advocacy for the scientific method? It's utterly ridiculous. But yeah, wanted to touch on that. There's a lot of great materials out there. I'm thankful to Derek, actually. When Derek and I started planning courses we could do and stuff we could talk about, we decided to do two. One on Darwin's Law, sort of helping people understand evolution from a mechanistic perspective. But the other is going to be on sex and evolution, where we do more of a deep dive into the science behind sexuality. And we will touch on these issues a little bit more. But in the interim, I do encourage you to look into this research because it's abundant, and the picture is like abundantly clear. This isn't speculative or anything like that. There really is overwhelming consensus that helps us understand the spectrum of the human experience and makes a perfectly strong case for natural explanations of the spectrum of human diversity that we observe. And the point of today was to make it very, very clear that with regard to our trans fam, that portion of the spectrum is to be loved, supported, and celebrated, and anything else is, completely unacceptable. With that in mind, I want to thank everybody throughout the day. Again, Stephanie and Lena, our guest, Nitty as well, along with my one black friend and Uncle Bobby. James Apperson helped us hold it down as well. Really appreciate that. I appreciate everyone in the chat. I really insisted that, today was not going to be a day for debates and back and forth, and appreciate that people have honored that. One last thing, man. We normally do our overnights every night and gather in our private spaces. It's normally where we do our movie nights and stuff like that. But, to celebrate this event, we've opened up Gather, and we are in our guest cafe where everyone has access. So it's time to get our movie night started. We'll play a couple clips and have a little fun just to get ourselves started. And I guess probably in about 20, 30 minutes or so, we'll start the features. So go ahead, catch a quick break if you need to. And then please come link up with the gang and Gather. And the link is pinned at the top of the live chat. And it is also in the description, but please come join us for movie night. We'd love to have you. And we're so excited with everybody that's here. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. It's been a really, really special day of shows and streams, and we're really, really grateful to all of you for your love and support. Come link up with the gang and Gather. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. In the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens, science bless you all. Poof!
sunshine cause she heard it all before. Sometimes she don't wanna be alone. Most times she don't want me gone. She don't know I try my all. She don't know I sprung in the sun, but I'm going in the winter, so we good to the fall. Remember how I told you I get it and I win, now I'm got it, you ain't answering my call. Wonder if I've been moving too strong. Maybe I just been moving too boss. Really hate when the feeling get lost. Nowadays she just dodge my calls. In the game throwing laws like Paul. Young legend Miss John like Wall. And I wish you never met like Call. Dick game lay it down like law. Made plans but you canceled them all. I was just trying to splurge in the mall. Now I'm home stacking bread till you call.
It's time to roll. She tryna slide. We smoking Zah. Stop acting shy. Cause you a demon when I get between your thighs, girl. You like my rib, you know I need you by my side, girl. It's time to roll. She